The silent protagonist is an ever-popular trope amongst RPGs. The ability to allow for a player to insert themselves onto a blank slate that can also have a meaningful impact on the story is one unique to the medium of video games, and for that reason, it's incredibly popular. We see this trope in almost every RPG, from Pokemon to Dragon Quest. While these characters do cool things and may have small hints of personality peppered into their design, they are largely created to just be projected upon. My Pokemon trainer can be a reflection of me in the same way that your Pokemon trainer can be a reflection of you. But at the end of the day, both of us are playing as essentially the same character, doing essentially the same things. Now, this excellent means of immersion is not without its downsides, however. Generally speaking, this kind of protagonist can come off as cold or emotionless, and ultimately out of place in a world of over-the-top expressive anime characters. Because, well, they are out of place. All of the reaction and emotion is delegated to the player, and because of that, all of the main character's lines are the lines that you speak in your head while reading through the dialogue. But you'll notice how I said generally speaking at the start of this. Some characters are able to toe the line between self-insert and full character, and as you may have guessed from the title and thumbnail of this video, I am of course referring to Joker from Persona 5. Joker is, for the most part, a silent protagonist. He doesn't have too many lines, and it's rare that we hear him voice any opinions or statements outright. And yet, I'm sure anyone who has played Persona 5 will have some sense of Joker's personality outside of just themselves projected onto him. But how does the game do this? Well, there are a few tricks that Persona 5 uses to subtly hint at Joker's true personality without giving him the long monologues or diatribes that other characters spout in order to craft their personalities. For the sake of comparison, I feel that it would be useful to look at one of the characters closest to Joker, Ryuji. Now, to get a feel for Ryuji, the game puts the player in situations where Ryuji is allowed to do all of the talking. Mostly this comes through confidant cutscenes. In these, Ryuji tells the player about his past, his present, and his plans for the future, all while including his emotions and his reactions. Now, this all sounds extremely obvious, of course, but it is the method by which personality is conveyed. Now, of course, we can get more granular and go deeper, like voice lines, design, and small interactions, but these scenes make up the proverbial meat of Ryuji's character. In contrast, however, we have Joker. Joker doesn't have speeches or monologues. The most that we get out of his mouth is small exclamations and phrases when responding to a question or reacting to something in the world, or calling forth a persona. But the game understands that it has very limited expression with Joker, and uses that limited expression to craft a personality in between silent and outspoken. These tiny quotes make up most of how we see Joker, so let's get a closer look at these types of dialogue to understand how they create his personality. For starters, we have the most obvious. In confidant cutscenes, the player is given 2 to 3 dialogue choices that each convey a slightly different message. Now, none will be a wild deviation from the conversation at hand, but more aptly a difference in how the message is delivered. To get even more specific, let's look at one of the most often quoted lines from the game, "Beep boop." During Makoto's confidant, she is beginning to feel disconnected from her peers due to her more grounded and serious lifestyle. This insecurity is making her feel like a robot when compared to her classmate Aiko. When confronting this anxiety, Joker is given a few different options, all of which take the issue with a different tone. But one option obviously sticks out. Beep boop is meant to be a joke option to cut the tension and make fun of the absurd notion that Makoto is a robot. It is obviously a bit of friendly teasing and joking around, but it's actually super telling about Joker. What we can infer from this line, and others like it, is that despite the serious nature of the scene, Joker is able to add levity and comedy into the discussion. He isn't afraid to be a bit cheeky, and he clearly values a playful bit of banter, even if it isn't the textbook right answer. Now, the thing about this line is that it doesn't really matter what exactly it's saying, but only that it is a notable line that adds to Joker's personality. Now, what I mean by this is that it isn't something that just anyone would say. In fact, it's far from the bland filler dialogue option that most JRPG protagonists get. This line in a vacuum may seem like a one-off joke, not important to the plot at all, but when put into the greater context of the game, it becomes exceedingly important. The reason that lines like these are critical to the game's story is that without them, Joker would make no sense as the main character. Unlike other RPGs with different stakes, Persona 5 is an extremely personal game. In order for Joker to do the things that he does in Persona 5, he needs to have some pretty deep and personal reasons. Now, whether these reasons are moral, circumstantial, or otherwise is of little importance. But what is important is that not just anyone would do what Joker does. Just like how not just anyone would say the things that he does. So having these moments of characterization cues us into the type of person that Joker is. He's strong-willed, virtuous, and has an extreme distaste for those in power who abuse it. These traits are unique to him and others like him, which make him a perfect fit as the leader for the Phantom Thieves. From dialogue options that we see, like Beep Boop, we can infer that Joker is a passionate, youthful person with a strong self-image, traits that are fitting of somebody who risks their life and status to change the systems of a real-world government. Were Joker to be totally emotionless and left with no character, he would feel wildly out of place next to the passionate and emotionally vibrant cast. Speaking from a story perspective, it would also give Yaldabaoth a little reason to designate him as the trickster for his cosmic game, thus leading him to not be the protagonist. Finally, this personality is also necessary to set up parallels between him and Akechi, his main foil throughout the game. To keep things simple, if Joker were a blank slate, like a Pokemon trainer or something, Akechi's whole arc would likely fall flat, as he needs to bounce off of Joker for setup. But if you want to hear more about the parallels between Akechi and Joker, I'll direct you towards my video that I have dedicated to Akechi. As we can see, all of the small things that Joker does are done in an attempt to slowly build a realistic persona, pun intended, that makes sense for the story. Joker says just enough to be somewhere in between a silent protagonist and a fully fledged character. It doesn't lean so much in one way that it makes him too unrelatable, but it also isn't afraid to commit to certain character choices that are key in crafting a real person. I think the reason Joker works so well as a main character is while other silent protagonists allow us to see ourselves as we are in the game, Joker allows us to see a bold and confident version of ourselves. For those who are already outspoken and confident, this may go unnoticed. But to those who are a bit more reserved, I think Joker allows us to see an idealized version of our outgoing aspects. He's sassy, confident, does what he wants, and makes society a better place because of it. And what kind of character could be better suited to be the hero of Persona 5? Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you made it this far, then you probably liked what I had to say, so if that's the case, be sure to leave me a like so I know I'm doing something right. Also, be sure to leave me a comment about which characters from Persona you want me to talk about. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an upload. Also, I have a Twitter and an Instagram if you would like to hit me up on either of those platforms. Links to those will be below. But with all that YouTube stuff out of the way, I just want to say thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.